これで映っているはず。映っているかな？映ってない。映った。よし。Please choose the screen and subtitle language. OK。なるほど。これは箱丸が使えないってことですね。なるほど。キーマウでやれと。わかったよ。まあ、結構古いゲームだからな、これ。日本語です。スクリーンと字幕の言語をお選びください。まあ、日本語ですね。音声は英語なんだったと思います、このゲーム、確か。まあね、時にはね。まあ、いろいろありますけれども、時にはアホなことをやって、前にザ・スタンレーパレードをプレイしたことありますが、いいえ。そうです、今日はスタンレーパレード、ザ・スタンレーパレードをやっていきます。あ、パラブルか。ザ・スタンレーパラブルですね。名作ですね。今更かというぐらい。パソコンがギリギリ見えるくらいまでスライダーを調整してください。これね、私は結構明るめにしちゃうんですよね。日本のテレビっていうか、モニターって暗めですよ。現在の時刻、PM の9時7分ですね。8分にしとこうか。多分そろそろ8分になると思うんで。まあいいでしょう。中、アクセシビリティ設定はメインメニューからアクセスできます。お、OK。セッティングなんだ。あ、コントローラー使えるんじゃん。コントローラー使えるの？あ、使えるやん。なんで使えるんじゃん。使えるなら、言ってよ。このように字幕がいけますよ。オーディオはまあ、ビデオも、まあ、しゃがむがある。しゃがむ。インタラクトが A で、見る、動く。はい。OK。というわけでやっていきます。ザ・スタンレーパラブル、ウルトラデラックス版です。いやー、新しい現場ってこんな感じだよね。
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day, every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
デスクを離れ、彼は部屋を出て行きました。なるほど。そう ナレーションは言っているな。あ、押せる。これ、これもたもたしてたらなんか言われるかな。なかなかいかない。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
会議室に行けって言うんだ。ナレーションが会議室に
No
行けって
matter
言
how
うんだ。
hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
ファーテッド。うわ、このさ、昔のパソコン感すごいよね。この本当に昔のパソコンだよね。
やりたい放題だぜ。
それやりたい放題だよ。今ならここで全裸になっても誰も解かれないからね。時代を感じる複合機だな。いや、この PC もだいぶやばいね。フロッピーディスクと隣にこれ MO かな。なんかちょっとちっちゃいのがありますね。っていうか、パソコンにその普通の筆記用具っていうスタイルがさ、今あんま考えられないじゃん。全部パソコンでできちゃうからさ。結構移動速度速いな、こういうの。なんか酔っちゃったらごめんね。なんかカメラ速度が速いなってちょっと思っている。なんかやってる私ですらちょっと酔いそうだもん。いや、怖っ。誰もいないオフィスって怖いよね。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左のドアに入りました。よし、わかった。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
なんか動いた？これ動いてないか。
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
休憩室っていいよね。そういえばさ、そう休憩室があるオフィスっていうのなかなか少ない気がしますね。
Yes, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
練習の左にドアってこっち？じゃあ行かない。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't
なん
5
で
years
僕に
ago.
なかった信じられませんね。俺は抗うぜ。俺は抗うぜ。俺は運命に抗うぜ。え、これどうすんの？カーゴリフトって出てるけど、しゃがむぐらいしかできない。ジャンプとかないもんね。じゃあこれか？これどうすんだろう？
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
怒んだよ、そんな。怒んだよ。いいじゃねえかよ。たまには反撃したくなるんだよ。大人はこうやってちょっとこういうちっちゃな反撃を重ねて心の隙間を埋めていくんですよ。
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map, because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing, because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
エヴァがいそう。
エヴァがいそう。
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. A 1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically, but a 1? That's not even helpful. What am I supposed to do with that? But I guess it isn't my place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
ザ・サンデーパラブルワールドワイドリーダーボード。お、リーダーボードできる。ザ・グッド・オールド・デイル・イズ・オフライン。2秒。イントロシークエンスの 21.3%。This is you 。ここまだ弾きゃいいのかな
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you?
Okay.
Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You pick the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience. You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Oh, なんだ
Ah, fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation?
これ山火事眺めるゲームじゃん
Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your great tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
お前んとこのゲームね。お前んとこのゲームね、これも。これもお前んとこのゲームだぞ、おい。いいのか、セルフパロディだぞ、それ。ファイヤーウォッチじゃないですか。名作ですね。このゲームは元ネタがあって、山火事が起きてないかどうかを監視する仕事っていうのが本当にあるんですね。で、なんかそれのシミュレーターみたいなゲームで、結構前にこれも流行ったゲームですよ。で、まあ、スタンレーと同じ会社が出しているゲームなんですけど、いやー、バカだなすげえな、スタンレーパラグラムか。
No, 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 it can't be.
ダメ、それは無理とか言う。
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off.
Oh.
Thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing. A big open, just wandering around, no right or wrong directions, no path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
ロケットリーグじゃねえか。
Wonderful.
ロケットリ
See,
ーグ
this
じゃ
is
ねえか。
exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to
Rocket League
run
って書い
around
てあ
in.
んぞ。
There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now
おめ
this
んとこの
is
ゲーム
game
だよ。
design.
だからおめん
Stanley,
とこ
if
の
you
ゲーム
manage
だ
to
って
get
言っ
lost
てん
in
だろ。
this game, I will be phenomenally impressed.
おめんとこのゲームで。すげえ、ロケリーのところを歩けるって
Okay,
な
so
かな
what
かないね。
exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
お、本当に出てきた。本当に出てきた。すげえ。うー。
Are you doing it? Are you winning? Is this fun? Is it better than my miserable little story that I worked so hard on? Stanley, I have a thought. And I realize I'm not a sportsologist, but if one ball generates a certain amount of raw adrenal pleasure, then surely multiple balls makes for an even more euphoric sports experience. I'm going to try it out. Here comes another ball. Yes! Oh goodness, that really does feel amazing, doesn't it? Stanley, hold on. What are you doing? Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
フライングキャビネットとかいろいろありますね。ゲームの裏側来ちゃった。こっちかな。おー、落ちる。おー。怖っ。何これ。510。509。できる前って感じだね。423。できついてる。確か427番がスタンレーのあれでしたね。427戻ってきた。えなんかすごいことになってるけど。何これ、照明卓じゃん。 なんか変わってる。おなになに
I
なに
wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
何だったんだ。あれ戻っちゃった。時間は合ってないんだね、これね。時間聞いてきたくせに。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
どうしようかな。これ右選んだら怒んだろうな。怒んだろうな。怒るかな。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
ちょっと見してよ、見してよ。おい、見してくれよ。左ちょい見せかよ。
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute?
明らかになんだよ。明らかになんだよ。
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
全然違えじゃねえか。大丈夫か、おい。おー、なになに
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
怖っ。これ全従業員ってことでしょ。怖っ。
All of his
いろんな
co-workers
スタ
were
ンレーがい
gone.
るってこと。
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
OK。じゃあ、わけわかんない方行こうか。 ああ、ここ見えるんだ。あれいろんなところ、あ、戻ってきちゃってんじゃん。
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
リスタートした。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
扉ね
Okay,
えじゃ
yep,
ん。
it's worse. I
持っ
might
て
be
きないぞ。
remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything? Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart. All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that? No, I'm down. We're leaving it up to the line from now on.
なんだよ、かたくなにラインに沿って生きろというのか、俺に。上等じゃねえか、この野郎。ソリティアやってない？おい、ソリティアやってるやついんぞ。ソリティアやんな。4B4 まで来ちゃった。
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay, now if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office in fact the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood. music. Go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
死だな。超見てやる。めっちゃ見てやるよ。ずっと見てやる。ずっと見てやる。
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
こっち行けるって言ってる。結局ここ
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
もうね、ダメだと思うよ。もうスタンレーいいこと聞かないもん。
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction? Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it. Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it. We should be fine. Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley. Our destiny awaits.
アンチクラピカ理論やな。なんだこれ。同じとこじゃねえかよ。
Hold up, what's this? The confusion ending.
混乱エンドですね。
You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times?
8
That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, Who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really... No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
うるせえなんかバグったっぽい汚れ方したな。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左に入ろうか。やっと入って左に。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
めっちゃ業績悪い。なんだこれ。トゥーズー。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
怖っ。何それ怖っ。何それ
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
あら、女になったわ。
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better.
怖っ。
Then she remembered the
いやいやいや
meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Stanley.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
お
mean?
めえ何回
Stanley
何回
decided
死
to
ぬ
go
ん
to
だ
the
よ。
meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
じゃあ上司のとこ行ってみようか。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Because the boss knows what the boss says goes. If the boss's suffered loses, then That's what the boss choose. ボスが何を選ぼうとも、もしボスがサファードルーズズ、ボスせ、日本語どけ。日本語どけ。エクストリームバスループ。どこら辺がエクストリームなんだ。ボス。ボスもいねえな。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
No.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
英語はうまくない。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life, for he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
フルボイス、英語。
システムパワーを切るフルボイスかっこ英語。
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Beat the game. 終わったぞ、これ多分。
これ死ぬゲームなの？
死ぬっていうか、こう、いろんな選択肢。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
一番最初にやったやつがやっぱ面白かったね。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. You see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time. The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for?
あ、これ以上いけないんだ。
Here, yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I
言う
feel
ことを聞き続けなくても俺一人
I
出しか
actually feel
一人出し
happy.
この人出しか言われる。
No, wait. Where are you going? Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley, think. No!
そうい
Oh, thank God you lived. No. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me? My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
だんだんかわいそうになってきた。だんだんかわいそうになってきた。
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore.
かわいそうに。
I just wanted us to get along. Do you actually want to stay alive? Or are you just teasing me? I wanted us to be happy here, Stanley. I really did. I wish I still thought that was possible.
"特に何もないんかい。足にダメージを負ってるせいですげえゆっくりしか歩けねえ。よし、死のう。
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
めっちゃテンション下がってる。
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
あれあ、ニューコンテントニューコンテンツニューコン
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
おい、ちょっと待って、これ、あれじゃねえか。あ、やばいやばいやばいやばい。これあれ、ポータルのラストじゃん。ケーキーズライ、ケーキーズライ。
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable
ポ
Ultra
ータルじゃ
Deluxe.
ねえかよ。
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
ポータルじゃん。
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
ポータル
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
あれ、ポータルに紹介したっけ？
Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable.
やべ、絶対役だろ。焼却する気だろ。
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
これポータルのラストはこういうベルトコンベヤーに乗せられてこう焼かれ焼却されるんですよ。だからギリギリのところで脱出しなきゃいけないっていう。
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right. All right, let's see. It's
New
the
content.
jump circle.
やっべ、ジャンプできるようになった。クソかよ。
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
このゲームは何なの？
バカゲーですね。
Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes, I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Thank you for
That's
enjoying
it?
the new
Oh, you've got to be
content.
kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar.
Yes,
And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
いやもう最初から違うのよ。最初から違うのよ。あれ？行けなくなってる。
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something!
ゴールデンアイ。
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
誰かの墓がある。墓がある。リトルスタンレーの墓がある。
Je suis dans la mémoire sur la pluie de l'eau et je n'attends
歌う、急に歌うよ。
plus que toi mon amour. C'est là dans la mémoire
ゲームオブザイヤーが飾ってある。
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
メモリーゾーンってオリジナルパーソンオブザイヤーぼやけてんなぼやけてんなパーソンオブザイヤーぼやけてんのよ
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
それはそう。それはそうだよな。まあ、リメイクって難しいよね、やっぱね。そう考えると。
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no.
Oh,
no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
明らかにレフト4デッドじゃねえかよ。
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
めっちゃキレてんじゃん。そんな怒んなよ。そう思うやつだっているだろうさ。
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, his preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations. Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time, just sitting here, not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my words were moving. It was the vessel I needed, Stanley. Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life.
喋らなくなっちゃった。ナレーション死んだぞ。ナレーション死んだぞ。 なんか音聞こえるんだけど。なんか動物かなんかの鳴き声聞こえるんだけど。
このゲームいつ出たやつ？
スタンレーパラベラムは2013年。で、これはデラックスエディション2022年かな。なんか声聞こえるんだけど。怖っ。さらに押す。なんか鳴ってる。火災報知器かなんか鳴ってる。時計が。何が起きてんだこれ。
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being. Have we been given to indulging every fleeting...
壊れちゃった。ナレーション壊れちゃったよ、もう。もう要求がきつすぎて壊れちゃった。ないかな。ポチャン？どっかポチャンって聞こえたな。
The end is never the end, 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 is never the
もうめっちゃ漏れてる、めっちゃ漏れてる。ここのセンサーとか鳴らなくなっちゃった。この奥から聞こえていた何者かの鳴き声も聞こえなくなっちゃった。お何があった何があった何があった何があったこれ何があったマジで。あ、なるほど。水道管が崩れたんだ。水がめっちゃ漏れてて、それがこうコンクリート侵食してバーンってなってたんだ。やば。これ外と繋がってる？外大嵐ってことこれ。何これやばいやん。光が差してる。 光が差してる。角のマークとかあるんだけど大丈夫これ。外がどうなってんのかすげえ気になる。おお草生えた。草生え始めた、ついに。草が生え始めた。あれ戻っちゃった。あれ草どうしちゃったの。あれ草どうしちゃったの。いきなり不穏じゃん。いきなり不穏だよ、ちょっと。もうむちゃくちゃだよ。何があったこっちは。この辺りは特にないけど、怖っ。何かがいるんだな、外に。お、斜めになってる。ボタンぶっ壊れてる。ついにボタンが壊れた。押しすぎてボタン壊れちゃった。何もない。だいぶ未来まで来てしまった。世界が滅んでた。スキップボタンを足したばっかりに。登れないんだ。何だったの怖っ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
おい、本当か？ニューコンテンツ。
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
だいぶ省略したな。
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
すごい、古い Mac が新しい Mac になってる。古い Mac が新しい。インベスターショーケース。
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Expo Hall. どうすあ、ここか、こっちか。
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
The baby is all grown up.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the... Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now?
Jim.
Yes! You see? What a thrill! What a rush! That was you! The button described you. Do it again. Do it again.
Jim.
Ooh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation.
Jim.
Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim.
Jim.
I'm putting a Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
ジムボタンが、ジムボタンなくなった。もっとジム言わせろ。くそー、ジムボタンなくなっちゃったよ。なんか他にもあったな、なんか。
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
オフィスデコレーション。安心のバケツって何？無限の穴とかある。安心のバケツって何？
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable too.
大丈夫。あ、バケツ持ったまんまだよ。
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
いつか元気になるようだな。
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Happy 12th birthday, step-niece, it is.
おい、おい、人の話聞け。
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
雑に言うコレクティブルズ。インフィニティホール。インフィニティホールってなんだ。
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is, in fact, a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time, if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium. You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things. Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
これ戻らなかったらどうなるんだろう。特に何もない。タバコ捨てんなよ、こんな。
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you Oh, for heaven. You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. A normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing of... Wow. Okay. Yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter. Well, there it is. The shame of my lie has come to haunt me. How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is the, teleport button not working? You sure? Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation. Still nothing? Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally anything else. Take care, Stanley. I hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of eternity together.
あれあれ下っているぞ。下っているぞ。この穴。この穴深くなってる。視点を変える。おおなんだこれ。お前こんな子だったんか。なんだこれ。 めちゃくちゃだ。スタンレーが壊れちゃった。確かに。レッドソックスいいリベみたいな。
Stanley!
Oh.
Oh, good, you're awake. It seems you had sort of dozed off there, drifting away into dreamland. But we can't have that, Stanley, because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really, truly focused on the hole? From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole, and I'm looking forward to all of them. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back. Toodlepip.
出れないんだけど。あ、こっからなんだ。
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
そうだ。ニュープラスイージーアーカイブイベント。なんだこれ。
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
まあ、そんな簡単にアーカイブは取らせないよと。そういうことかな。
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet? Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Ah, スタンレーの像が。これ一つどういうふざけんで1個しかないのかい。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic. All right, have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now? So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, this is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Boy.
This is the story of a...
スキップボタン。どんどんひどくなってんじゃん。どんどんひど
All
い
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
あれこっち行ける。お、三冷蔵がある。
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
これ、あ、そっちから行ける？そっちから戻れそうだ。ここ。
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far. You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
ひどい。あれ、また変わってる。
Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good,
said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
深く考えずバケツの一部です。全部バケツのせいになってるんじゃないか。
No, stop. Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
えらくバケツするじゃん。
いや、ほんとよ。バケツを、お Is this a bucket?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
わかるかよ、もう。
Item 3. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a
バケ
bucket.
ツなんかい。バケツなんかい。
Item 4. Is this a bucket? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
ひどい。ひどい。
Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket.
なんでだよ。なんでよ、バケツじゃねえか。バケツじゃねえか。
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
両方ってなんだよ。
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
バケツ消える。バケツ消さ
What
れた。
happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a
全部
bucket?
バケツだったのか。
Every single thing in the
バケ
game was
ツ
a
しかなかっ
bucket.
たの。
Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not
じゃあバ
buckets.
ケツじゃなかった。
Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets,
バケツ戻
okay?
すんかい。
And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
あ、バケツなくなってるね。はい。もういい時間なんでね。もうだいぶやってるでしょ。はい、というわけで、もう2時間ぐらいやってんのか。まあなんか変なゲームやりたいなと思ったから、ちょっと突発的にやったよ。突発的に変なゲームやった。なんかね、なんかな、思ってたほどでもなかったね。なんか、もっと面白いと思ってた。
こんな職場に行きたい。
こんな無駄な時間を過ごされるっていう意味ではやばいね。なんだろう
おいら
な。
はごめんだよ。
そりゃそうだよ。そりゃそうだよ。そりゃそうだよ。まあね、ちょっとね、移動してね、初めての死んだビルに帰ってきたわけなんですけれども、こう、あれですね、今週はだいぶこう、昔の記憶をたどり寄せるというか、こう、あ、こんな道通ったな、で、ここでね、みたいなのがたくさんフラッシュバックしながら、こう、過ごして、明日また、あれですね、今週のラストを迎えようとしているって感じですね。いやー、なんだかなって感じだけどね、いやー。
亀道楽のポスター調
メ
べた。
ドラグのさ、あれな、ショップに貼ってあるやつね。ショップに貼ってあるやつ。いや、なんかさ、こう、初めての死んだビルはさ、やっぱ、 こう、テンションが上がったんだね、私はね。こう、ああいう大きなオフィスビルに行くみたいなのがさ、今にして思うとそんなに大きくもないいや、まあ大きいは大きいけど、大きいは大きいけど、なんかこう、なんというか、順当にグレードアップしてしまった結果、なんか大したことないっていうふうに思う場面もあり、かといって、こっちの方が優れてるなっていうのもあったりとかして、なかなか、なかなかね、なかなかあれでしたけれども。いやー、やっぱトイレに窓がついているってところが、やっぱりファーストシンラビルはすごいなって思うところですね。
そうやって麻痺していくんだな。
いや、でもまあ、ちゃんとしてるところではあるよ、やっぱ。一番、こう、今までのやつの中で、一番初めの現場が一番優れた点ももちろんあるし、検証環境が常に触れるとか、そういうのすごい、なんか、ありがたい現場だったなっていうのは、もう、他の現場行った時に嫌というほど味わったので、嫌というほど味わったりとか。まあでもなんかね、4年ぶりにこのプロジェクト帰ってきましたっていう、なんかこう、変な感慨深いというかですね、そう、PM さんがちょっと気を利かせてくれて、帰ってくるやつがいるっていうのも結構周知していたらしく、いろんな人に、あなたがみたいなことをめっちゃ言われて、なんか、なんだよと思って。いや、なんか本当気使わせてごめんなさいって感じですけど。そう、一つだけ残念なことがあったんだ。そう。先週までのね、現場、
出戻りの現場に行ったってことか。
そう、出戻りのね、全く違うプロジェクトなんですよ。要は、ずっと、昔やってたプロジェクトっていうのは終わって、もう完全に終わって、で、なんか、それからなんか追加とかが、残ったメンバーはやってたみたいなんだけど、で、私の同期がずっとそこの現場にいて、で、帰ってきて、なんかもうすげえ久々に一緒に仕事するみたいになって、で、その現場のまた新しいプロジェクトで追加があって、それを私がやるっていう感じになった感じなんだけど、まあといって私ともう一人か、明日入ってくるんですけれども、私が進捗をやり、進捗とか、お客さんとのお話とかを私がやり、で、明日から入ってくる子が、まあ、実際手を動かすっていう、そういうなんか分担制になりそうです、どうやら。なんだけど、出張がね、出張が発生しそうです。しかもですね、遠いです。すごく遠い。マジかよという。すごく遠いです、今回。おい、ふざけんなよっていうぐらい遠い。もう新幹線じゃ行けないレベルです。とんでもなく遠いところまでどうやら飛ばされるみたいです。もう勘弁してほしいです。多分、年末か年明けぐらいにそっちの方行きそうですね。はい。というわけで、もうね、なんやねんって話なんですけど、とりあえずね、
ポ
今日は一旦、
ナヤツングスカじゃん。
いや、ほんと、ポネヤツングスカなのよ。ポネヤツングスカよ、もう。はい。というわけで、今日は一旦こんな感じで終わりにしたいと思います。なんか、いろいろ凹むこともあるかもしれないけれども、たまに
それが餌
こういう、
裏切るフラグ。
たまにこういうバカなことをやってるのを、チラ見してちょっとは元気を出してくれるといいなと思っています。いいなと思っています。何はとは言わないけれども、何はとは言わないけれども、こういうバカなことをやってるのを見て、笑って、ちょっとでも元気を出してくれると僕は嬉しい。ではでは、お疲れ様でした。